felt pretty when you attracted your mate. Because people are seeing what they want to see. The mirror of reflections to see who's to be. I know what kind you are. Say no, I'm a bitch. Say yes, I'm a slut. I know what kind you are. Say no, I'm a bitch. Say yes, I'm a slut. Say yes, I'm a slut. I know what kind you are. Say no, I'm a bitch. Say yes, I'm a slut. I know what kind you are. Say no, I'm a bitch. Say yes, I'm a slut. Say yes, I'm a slut. Walking down the street with my hands tied 'cause I wore a skirt. You think I'm down to ride? You think I wanna fuck 'cause I comb my hair? 'Cause I'm at the bar next to an open chair. 'Cause I was had to be polite, 'cause I look you in the eye, 'cause I grin back, green light, go ahead, give it a try. I know there are people who like the attention. I know admiration is a kind of affection. I'm more into the heart of a person. The day I fall asleep is the day I'll be hurt. Yes, I'm into protection. I know what kind you are. Say no, I'm a bitch. Say yes, I'm a slut. I know what kind you are. Say no, I'm a bitch. Say yes, I'm a slut. Say yes, I'm a slut. I know what kind you are. Say no, I'm a bitch. Say yes, I'm a slut. I know what kind you are. Say no, I'm a bitch. Say yes, I'm a slut. Say yes, I'm a slut. Hello, everyone. So if you'd like to pop in the chat box where you are chiming in from, I'd love to see where everyone is around the world as we just wait for a few more people to come on here. If you also feel to put your camera on, that would be lovely. It's not mandatory, of course, but it's so great to always see everyone's face as well. So as you're arriving, you can just get what you need, water, comfort. Folks from Israel, Canada, Norway, Romania, Germany, Switzerland, Thailand, US. So I'm getting a couple of messages saying it's hard to hear me. Is it okay to hear me now? Can you nod your head if I'm good? All right, awesome, great. Okay, so yeah, let's jump in. I think that we'll have people entering throughout here. We have a really nice big group of women. I think we have 800 women signed up to this webinar, so we probably won't have everyone on here today because there's a lot of people asleep right now. But, oh, okay, I just was muted. Okay, so let's all just take a moment, and I just want to invite you before we close our eyes to just take a couple of breaths. And then when you're ready, you can close your eyes. And as your eyes close, I invite you to just notice the difference in your experience from having your eyes closed, open to closed. The transition from having your eyes open to closed. What does it feel like to shift inside? What becomes amplified in your experience as you start to meet yourself more internally? Maybe sounds become louder. Maybe you can sense the temperature in your skin a little bit more than before. Maybe you notice some physical sensations that you didn't when your eyes were open and you were more external. And as you sense yourself, as you feel your being as it is in this moment, I just want to invite you to check in where your breath is residing right now. Is it in your chest or your lower abdomen? Is it short and fast or deep and slow? Without changing your breath, just noticing how it is operating in your body right now. Just meet your breath as it is in this moment. And meeting your breath is bringing an undying presence to it. Really coming into a deep relationship in this moment as you notice your inhale and your exhale. And if you have thoughts coming through your mind, that's okay, that's completely natural. If you feel agitated or a little bit disconnected, just really allowing whatever is in your experience to be here, but we're simply bringing the awareness to the breath as the center point. And now just elongating the breath 2 to 3, even 4 seconds longer than normal on the inhale. And on the exhale, blowing out as if you were blowing out a candle very slowly. So breathing in just a few seconds longer on the inhale, and breathing out, blowing out a candle. I'm just going to do this for a few moments. Making it a really natural breath for yourself. Not trying to force anything. Just a few more rounds. One more time. And just coming back to a normal breathing pattern. And I just want to invite you to find one way that you could relax just a little bit more in this moment in your body right now. What's one thing you can do to just bring a little bit more ease into this moment? Maybe it's taking a big long breath, maybe it's a stretch, maybe it's letting yourself lay down or lean back. Maybe it's a big yawn. And then slowly, when you're ready, opening your eyes and taking about 10 to 15 seconds to just look around the space. You're not looking for anything particular, you're just kind of arriving back in the space. And still breathing with awareness. And you can look at your body and just give yourself a little bit of touch. And you can take one last deep breath and close your eyes again as you receive our first offering into the space.
So I'm going to read us all a poem. And this poem is called The Doorway. And I just invite you to maybe close your eyes and drop in and really feel your body and feel where these words touch you. If you listen closely, you will discover your body is not only a tool, it is a doorway. If you are humble enough to listen, she will teach you. She will crack open this world and lead you into another. She will peel away a veil and show you that what you thought was solid is porous. What you felt to be known is actually dancing in the ecstasy of unbecoming. That in your right thigh is a vast web of constellated stars. That portals into wisdom are hidden in the space between your vertebrae. That oceans of mystic poetry are painted on the walls of some mysterious dark cavern in your belly. That your breath can meet the curve of spine in just the right way. That it calls your lost beloved into your heart. The body is a doorway. And written on the archway, it says these words: slow down inside. Feel me. Mm. 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 So whenever you're ready, open your eyes. Mm. Yeah, so welcome everybody. So we will just set a little bit of the container for the next 2.5 to 3 hours. We've just given ourselves a little bit of time so we can drop in. So we'll go maybe just 2.5 hours, but we might go 3 hours as well. We have a replay available if you need to leave early. And welcome everybody who is watching the replay. My name is Maanee Chrystal. And this is the beautiful Maya Luna. I'm Maya Luna.
She's also the author of the poem and many other poems that shall be read, hopefully now and more in our retreat. So yeah, what we will do is just give a little bit of an introduction of who we are. I know that there's kind of people that I've worked with in this space that don't know Maya, and probably the same for Maya that don't know who I am. So we'll give a little bit of an introduction of ourselves, why we're here, why this topic, why us together, what are we doing? And then we will jump into an exploration of the Madonna horse split. Yeah. So Maya, do you want to give yourself a little bit of an introduction and why this topic is coming through you and what you have to kind of bring into this space in relation to that?
Yes. So my name is Maya, and I am the creator of the Deep Feminine Mystery School. I am a poet. My poetry focuses on lost feminine wisdom. And I teach courses to both men and women. Some courses are just for women, but to men and women about what I call lost feminine wisdom. And this topic of the Madonna horse split is so dear to my heart. It's been a big theme in my life. Having been quite a rebel in my younger years and really kind of embraced the whore and embraced the rebellious feminine, and then had a journey of coming back home to my own innocence, to my own sacredness. And I've worked with so many women now, hundreds and hundreds of women, and there is not a woman that I have met that has not contended with this split in their life. And we're going to go more into what the split is, obviously, later on. But I think what I want to just say briefly here is that, the Madonna horse split in many ways is sort of at the very root of what we might call patriarchy, or the era of the lost few thousand years where human beings have lost connection to the feminine current, to the feminine principle. And that's because the original goddess, the original image of the feminine that human beings upheld really was the union of the Madonna and the whore. It was the big breasted, big bellied woman as the image of God, sensual, effulgent, erotic, but deeply sacred, deeply innocent, deeply present as an emanation of life. Just like the trees bear fruit, and the sun comes up and the sun comes down, and the cycles of nature, and this incredible eroticism and sensuality that is so core to who we are as human beings and bodies in relationship to the earth. And you can imagine that there was a time on earth where there likely was only one word for, and like there literally was no split. And there's a very rich and complex history around how this split was created, where it came from, what the origins are. And we'll go into that later too. But it's such a dear topic to me. And it's so alive in the collective psyche of woman, and her relationship to her sexuality, and her relationship to her humanity, and her relationship to her power and her wisdom and her knowing. And it travels all the way back to our connection with the original goddess. So it's such a rich topic, and I'm so excited to be here. And of course, we have to mention that Maanee and I are beginning a 6-week course next week called The Virgin Harlot, which is an exploration of that original goddess and this Madonna whore split topic, covering so many different dimensions to how the split operates and what happens when we bring them back into union.
Thank you. So happy to be here with you as well. It's been really beautiful to co-create with Maya the past month. We've been through a lot the past 2 weeks as well, so it feels good to get over this hump and actually get into this material, which was the original purpose that we got together. So I'm just happy that we're there. So my name is Maanee. I'm originally from Australia, but I live in Asia, in Thailand. And I wear a few different hats. I am a somatic psychotherapist, so I've been practicing as a psychotherapist for about 9 years now. And that's like my greatest passion, my greatest love is really diving into people's unconscious material, into their shadow, and doing that through the body. So really supporting others, my clients mostly, to create a sense of safety, to start to feel their emotions, feel sensations, and start to listen to them and come into contact with them as a meeting point of the repressed and denied and exiled parts of self. So I'm working a lot with bringing through the therapeutic relationship a sense of welcoming to the parts of our conditioning that are afraid to really be our full self. So that's kind of where my passion lies, in shadow work, in somatics, and also more and more over the past few years looking at trauma in the nervous system and nervous system health. So that's kind of where I hang out in the therapeutic world. Then I am also a dancer. I've been a dancer for many years, and through that and through my psychotherapeutic practice, I also studied dance therapy. So I'm a dance therapist, and I combined these two together
shadow work and dance therapy. And about 8 years ago, I started to have a body of work coming through me for women, which was centering the shadow and therapeutic erotic movement. And that has led me today to be the founder and curator of the Somatic Erotic Educator certification, which is a program offering trauma-informed facilitation and leadership skills in somatic shadow work, therapeutic movement, meditation, and sexuality. And we have a body of amazing expert teachers there. Maya will be a guest teacher on the next training as well, which I'm really excited about. And within all of that, what kind of sits underneath a lot of my own embodied wisdom was coming from my experience working in the sex industry as a stripper. So I worked in Melbourne in Australia for 3 years as a stripper and erotic dancer, and that has infused every part of my relationship to understanding the therapeutic qualities of the erotic and the feminine, and the deep nurturing reality of the feminine. So that's kind of where I get a lot of my juice and life force coming through me when I speak to these topics. And I have had a massive journey over the years between the Madonna horse split, reconnecting back more to like the Madonna archetype, and integrating these two. So yes, this is a very dear topic, a very embodied and lived experience for myself. And I'm really happy to be here with you all to share this also vulnerable transmission, because this is an edgy topic. It can be an edgy topic depending how deep you want to go into the topic, basically. So yeah, that's all I have to say for now. What we're going to do is have Maya actually introduce the topic. What is the Madonna whore complex? It is a term that's used a lot, but we'd like to give you sort of our definition and the central premise as to where we're speaking from, and then we'll dive in. We'll have some talking, we'll have some practices, we'll have some group sharing, go into breakout room. So that's going to be the general vibe of this session. So Maya, I will hand it over to you.
Yes. So I think it's important to note just, the term Madonna whore split actually came from Freud. It's not like he invented the entire concept, but he's the one who coined that term. And he coined that term because he found that many of his male clients that he was taking on in therapy had a split in their relationship with women, meaning they had women who they loved and cherished and respected, so their wives, but who they could not feel sexual arousal for. And then they had women who they were deeply erotically attracted to, but who they could not love or respect. So the prostitute or the whore. And I think it's important to note here that the origins of the split are very complex and very deep and rich. And I think we'll explore that a lot more in our 6-week course. But one thing that's interesting to contemplate and take in is that there was a time on Earth where human beings actually didn't know that male ejaculation led to pregnancy, to one father. There was no concept of fatherhood for a time on Earth. Children belonged to their mothers, and the men in the tribe were sort of uncles or fathers to all children. There was not an awareness that there was one father and one mother that created a child. And the revelation of that in the human consciousness had such a big impact. especially because it sort of co-arose around the same time as agriculture. The concept of ownership, right, began for the first time. And so the reason why this is important is because, once human beings awoke to the revelation that there was one father for every child, and this concept of ownership and possession began, paternity became an issue for the first time. How do we know who the father of a child is? And of course, to ensure paternity, the sexuality of woman has to be tightly controlled and owned, essentially. So, this split, it's so interesting because, gosh, that was thousands of years had birth control, and now we have like paternity tests and all of this technology, right? And yet it's still such a deep shadow in the collective psyche, where woman's sexuality has the power to strip her of her humanity, from her innocence, from her goodness. And so women often feel caught between wanting to be seen as good and wanting to be not only sexual, sex is a part of it, but wanting to be connected to her power, her instinctual nature, her deeper embodied wisdom. And it's interesting when you start to really examine the split or come awake to it, you really start seeing it everywhere. And I always like to give this example when I teach of if you look at Hollywood, if you look at movies, if you look at the stories that we're told in our culture, you'll find that there's a very, very, very common trope where there is a good girl. There's a good girl character who's the sweetheart, who gets the man in the end, who's soft, who's adorable, who's loving, who's innocent, who's kind, a good woman, a good wife, right? The woman who gets the man in the end. And then there's another female character that's sort of the second player. And it's typically either the best friend who's a little bit raunchy. She's kind of the butt of the jokes. She's a slut. She is bad. Or there's some kind of femme fatale character. There's the dangerous woman who tempts, the hero in the story away from his mission, who uses her sex to get power, who uses her sex to corrupt, right? So this association with female sexuality as evil or dangerous, right, is such a deep archetype in the collective psyche. And one thing that I find really interesting is that I have tracked, in the kind of divine feminine movement, there's so much coming forward now, so many teachings and people talking about the feminine and teaching about the feminine. And you can see the split there too. A lot of the divine feminine schools are very focused on kind of, from the belly up, upper chakras. It's the softness, the sweetness, the Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, right? This image of the feminine as this soft, nurturing, sweet, loving presence. And then you have the kind of Lilith crowd, right? The women that are bringing forward the divine feminine teachings as this real, deep, erotic, feral, dark, Kali, Lilith, right? And saying this is the feminine. And so that's the split right there too. Yeah. And so what is the union of those two? What is the feminine prior to that split? And let's see if there's anything else to say here. I've found that working with women, that most women have chosen one side predominantly in their life. and have a longing for the opposite, have a longing to be able to live into the opposite. The rule in patriarchy essentially is you just can't be both. You can be one or the other, but you can't be both because they are so diametrically opposed that you can only be one or the other. So that's a little brief sprinkle of an introduction. Did I miss anything, Maanee?
No, I will share something. Many people may have seen this already, but this is a really, really, really clear representation of what we are talking about. So yeah, I will share this little clip. And if you've seen this before, just take it in through the lens of what Maya has just spoken to about this split and the deep collective confusion that we in female bodies experience consciously and unconsciously as well. So just give me a moment.
Be a lady, they said. Your skirt is too short. Your shirt is too low. Don't show so much skin. Cover up. Leave something to the imagination. Don't be a temptress. Men can't control themselves. Men have needs. Look sexy. Look hot. Don't be so provocative. You're asking for it. Wear black. Wear heels. You're too dressed up. You're too dressed down. You look like you've let yourself go. Be a lady, they said. Don't be too fat. Don't be too thin. Eat up. Slim down. Stop eating so much. Order a salad. Don't eat carbs. Skip dessert. Go on a diet. God, you look like a skeleton. Why don't you just eat? You look emaciated. You look sick. Men like women with some meat on their bones. Be a size 0. Be a double 0. Be nothing. Be less than nothing. Be a lady, they said. Remove your body hair. Bleach this, bleach that. Eradicate your scars. Cover your stretch marks. Plump your lips. Botox your wrinkles. Lift your face. Tuck your tummy. Perk up your boobs. Look natural. You're trying too hard. You look overdone. Men don't like girls who try too hard. Be a lady, they said. Wear makeup. Highlight your cheekbones. Line your lids. Fill in your brows. Lengthen your lashes. Color your lips. Powder, blush, bronze, highlight. Your hair is too short. Dye your hair, not glue. That looks unnatural. Look young. Old is ugly. Men don't like ugly. Be a lady, they said. Save yourself. Be pure. Don't be a whore. Don't sleep around. Men don't like sluts. Don't be a prude. Don't be so uptight. But smile more. Pleasure men. Be experienced. Be sexual. Be innocent. Be dirty. Be the cool girl. Don't be like the other girls. Be a lady, they said. Don't talk too loud. Don't talk too much. Don't be intimidating. Why are you so miserable? Don't be a bitch. Don't be so bossy. Don't be so emotional. Don't cry. Don't yell. Don't swear. Endure the pain. Don't complain. Fold his clothes. Cook his dinner. Keep him happy. That's a woman's job. You'll make a good wife someday. Take his last name. You hyphenated your name. Crazy feminist. Give him children. You don't want children? You will someday. You'll change your mind. Be a lady, they said. Don't get raped. Don't drink too much. Don't walk alone. Don't go out too late. Don't dress like that. Don't get drunk. Don't smile at strangers. Don't go out at night. Don't trust anyone. Don't say yes. Don't say no. Just be a lady, they said.
I just want to invite you to check in with your body right now, because I know like it's easy to watch something go into the screen, but just take a moment to, you can even close your eyes or just bring your attention more inward and just check in how your body is receiving this. For me, I've seen this clip like so many times and it impacts me every time I see it. It's a lot of contraction in my chest area and heaviness in my belly. Just see if you can actually find a sense of relaxation in your body around what you are feeling right now. And you're also welcome to share in the chat box. We've got grief, rage, tense, furious. What are some of the sensations you experience? Heavy, contracted, tingly, dense, icky. I'd love to really hear about how your body is responding. Anxious, no freedom. Contraction, confusion, tightness, clenched jaw. Contraction, anger, heat in my chest, tired. Yeah, tired. It's exhausting. No space. Yeah. Feels familiar and normal. Yeah. Torn. Yeah. So let's just take one hand underneath our armpit and another over the shoulder. And with whatever you're feeling right now, just closing your eyes in this kind of self-holding gesture. And with whatever sensations and emotions or thoughts that are arising, let's just go back to this breath that we started with, breathing in and exhaling as if you're blowing out a candle. So let's just bring a bit of spaciousness to our system. Just helping to digest and metabolize what's here. Just 2 more times. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. And I just want to invite you to let your belly hang out for the next 2 hours, okay? Stop unconsciously sucking it in, keeping it tight. Just really let your belly be here. Yeah, like fully welcome anything that's tight. Let your pussy relax, your pelvic floor, check in throughout the next few hours. Where am I tightening up? And just let it rest. Yeah, because this is how we start to actually become more in contact with these deep currents that are not so in our awareness all the time. So,
I wanted to actually add something.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so I think it's important, and I felt this in the video as well, that the Madonna horse split, it's not just about woman's relationship to her sex, and the double standard, right? Because there is no split like that for men. A man's sexual hunger and number of partners that he has doesn't have the power to debase his humanity, right? But the split is also just about the pressure to be a perfect, good woman. The pressure to be perfect and flawless as a woman. Whatever perfect and good and flawless means. And there is no real rule book for what that is. You just have to make sure you figure it out all the time. And so it's this way that when women aren't obedient, when they aren't absolutely perfect, when they aren't absolutely virtuous, when they get messy, when they stand up for themselves, when they make a mistake, when they're human, we are very quick to judge them as the whore, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with sex. The whore is just the throwaway woman, the trash woman, the bad woman, right? The woman that doesn't get the love, doesn't get the holding, doesn't get the connection. So there's a big piece here around the desire for love and connection and belonging. And I think it's important to remember that this is so deep in the nervous system of women, because for so long, woman's survival, literally her survival, depended on being loved and taken care of by a man, right? And so that's very deep in our nervous systems as women, and is why I think a lot of women have developed people-pleasing tendencies, or what we might call fawning, codependency, because the need to be liked, the need to be loved, the need to be accepted is literally tied to survival in our nervous systems.
Maya, do you want to jump in with the questions, and let's do maybe a little bit of inquiry into our relationship to this? Yeah.
So what we're going to do now is, and please know that if for some reason this doesn't feel right for you and you don't want to participate, you can just not accept. So we're going to break you into breakout rooms, pairs of 2. And we're going to have you do a little inquiry process. And so the way that the inquiry is going to go is, let's just say the person with the shortest hair goes first, to make it simple. And so the person with the shortest hair is going to give the answers. And the other person is just going to ask this question over and over and over. And the question is, how do sex and innocence not go together? And I'll send it in the chat box. So the inquiry just goes like this. The person says, how do sex and innocence not go together? And then the person answers, how do sex and innocence not go together? And then the person answers, how do sex and innocence not go together? And the person answers. So it's just a way for you to kind of explore free form into your unconscious, into the collective unconscious, into your personal life experiences, and just be curious and see what comes. So if you don't want to do this for some reason, just don't accept, because you'll get a little invitation on your screen now. So I'm going to set up the breakout rooms. And yes, you can leave your camera off if you'd like. Maanee, can you just send a chat to everyone with that question? Will I create this?
So Maya, are they switching roles? We're just getting a couple of questions for clarification. Is it just one person asking the question?
Yes. And then we'll bring you back into the room and we'll do another round so that you get to switch with a different question. So it's just one person answering the question over and over and over.
Okay.
It's just a way to kind of Okay, here we go. We will bring you back into the room when the time has completed. I've got to shuffle people around.
Such a weird new thing on Zoom. I don't like it. Just having everyone come back in the space. As we're waiting, I just want to invite you to feel yourself being seated or laying down. Just become aware of your body. Check if you're tightening and see if you can relax. Okay, I think everyone's back. Okay, hey. All right, so we're going to ask the next question in the big group. So what we will do is Maya will ask you the next question, and then you can take a moment to just sit with the answer if you have one, and write in the chat box, and then we'll probably get a couple of you, if you feel comfortable, to come out and also share. So Maya, if you wanna ask the next one.
Yes. The question is, how have you given yourself away in exchange for love? How did you give yourself in exchange for love?
Not ask.
How have you given yourself away? How have you given yourself away in exchange for love? And I'm just going to keep saying it a couple different ways. And it's just to explore, how have you betrayed yourself to get love? How have you abandoned your truth to get love? How have you given away your power in exchange for love?
So in the chat box, we have obsessive thoughts, given my body to people who didn't love me, gaslit myself and my own intuition, gone along with many things, not keeping my time to myself, emotional manipulation and control, people pleased, played dumb, disassociated from my needs, done things sexually I didn't feel comfortable with, not express my true needs in the moment, let my body be used as an object, not showing up fully out of a fear of being rejected. Who feels a call to come on and share for around a minute or two what's alive for them at the moment in relation to this? What you can do is you can just physically raise your hand and I will scan through and unmute you. Okay, Dr. Senha. Sorry, it's so hard to pronounce names sometimes.
Yeah, it's Neha, like snake.
Oh.
I'm logging in from India. So what's alive for me is I see that I have sold myself not only to partners but also to parents sometimes. You know, like I've been the good daughter. I've done what is required of me, not had boyfriends, come back home from school on time. Also, I've been like a mediator so that I would keep getting love. Mm, and not raised questions. And when finally I did talk about my incest, um, the whole family broke down. And then when they blamed me, I also took the blame because at least they would continue to love me, even however distant they kept me. So yeah, I mean, this set of thoughts I'd not thought about, that I have given up myself away to get to even receive love from my parents. Um, Yeah, with men, it has generally been um, always being very careful if to fit in their image of femininity. That to not be too powerful, too strong. Uh, I am more than the norms, but still I do find myself checking that, oh, am I coming across too strong? Am I being too demanding? Um, Also, sometimes I think I do both. I do some withhold, like even when I'm desirous of sex, I don't ask for it. And when I'm not feeling it, I have sex, both to feel loved. So, yeah, let's stop.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, really deep share. Who else would like to? Here we can go to Ellen.
Hi, everyone. How have I betrayed myself in exchange for love? If like looking back at my history, I have just been seeking male approval my whole life, winning over the attention of men, not even women, relationship hopping, like bookending one relationship to the other, just because like the idea of being alone is so scary. I'm here in the Midwest in the United States, and like the culture here is, get married in your early 20s, have babies, create families. And so the pressure to be in a relationship is just everywhere. And so I think I have totally self-abandoned. I have performed to get to be in relationships. And as a result, it's left me really disempowered and having a lack of autonomy. And just like the last woman said, putting out for partners when I am not in the mood, because the story I tell myself is that I'll be rejected or they'll leave me or they'll abandon me. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. The people pleasing, codependent, anxious attachment is a story and set of labels that's really, really powerful for me, and I'm working on unraveling those. So I'm complete.
Thank you so much.
Let's have one more. Really just like want to express the amazing courage it is to reveal yourself. Krishna.
Hi, I'm a 24-year-old in India, and I am currently like trying to see someone. And I was telling this during the breakout session also, that I have a deep feeling and longing to connect sex with innocence and with the sacred. Like that's who I am. That's what I feel. But I find it so difficult to convince my partner to do the same work and to make them kind of understand the significance that it holds for me. Although when I even if I'm sexually involved with someone, I will still approach the sex with that kind of sanctity and innocence. But I don't know if the other one is doing consciously, or is it just like subconsciously happening for them. That's one area. The other I'm trying to work on is I'm constantly on flight mode whenever I get into intimate relationships. Like the minute one thing goes wrong on the behalf of my partner, I would want to run instead of having faith in the process. And I kind of feel that there's something brittle inside me, and I would like to make myself a little more flexible to have more faith in the process. Yeah, those are some of the things. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. Thank you for sharing yourself. Okay. Maya, do you want to ask the last question?
Yes. The last question is, and you can type this in the chat box, and if you feel like you want to come on and share, just raise your hand. How have you used your sex to get power and control? How have you used your sex to get power and control?
One that feels to raise their hand and also share. And if not, you can just write in the chat box. I've got to get attention and validation, withdrawal.
To keep a man.
Competition.
Attention. For revenge.
Kaylee. Okay, you can share, Kaylee.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, hello.
I just realized this with the last question, and then it fit perfectly into this one, that I've suppressed my sex in order to control how others think about me, and also to control any guilt that may have been instilled with me as well. That was just like quite a revelation, and it's different than what I'm seeing in the chat box.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just want to say here, and just invite everyone to feel the connectivity that we all share, the universality of our experiences here. You know, and I can feel this collective kind of sigh of relief as people hear their own experiences mirrored and reflected in other women.
Just read also for those who are watching the replay what's being said in the chat box. So to get a regular fix of adoration, idolization to help me feel like a worthwhile human when deep down I feel worthless. I didn't realize this stemmed from repressed sexual abuse. Yeah. Yeah. Let's just take a breath all together. To purge myself of anger as punishment. A lot of the kind of counteract, which is I've suppressed as well to avoid certain attention. Yeah, to compensate for my disengagement in the relationship. Yeah. So with this kind of like, I did this, I used my sex for love and approval, or I repressed it. The repression is also another act to get love and approval as well. It's like an indirect, and that again, it represents that split. Yeah. So as Maya was saying, we're always going to fall somewhere within that split. And it might interchange. We're not saying that it's fixed either, right? But there is a tendency within the construct of our psyche, our nervous system, our attachment style, sorry, I got distracted by the cat. Don't bring cats into my field. My brain shuts down. What was I saying?
Our attachment styles. We can be both. We can.
Yeah.
We can flip flop.
It can be fluid, and there often is kind of like a rooted constellation within our system.
Yes.
For me, it was very much around, I learned that the way to get love was through my sensuality, was through being desirable. So I had to constantly maintain, this was unconscious, that fixation of desire from the male gaze. And I learned that because of some wounding when I was younger, and that carried on to when I was 11 and fully developed with breasts, already being sexualized at such a young age. I just started to learn that that's how I get attention. And I carried that narrative until I was 25 years old, really strongly embedded. Yeah. So as someone mentioned before, in relation to like sexual abuse, there are these things that happened in our life where our system got information around survival. Yeah. And when we're speaking to this, I just really want to say that if you're noticing any kind of judgment towards yourself coming up, that's okay, because that's just a part of how the mind operates. And I'd love to invite you to see if you can bring a little bit of compassion and empathy towards yourself, because our operating system is like that because of conditioning. It's like that because it learnt a certain way, strategies, defenses, masks, how to get love and approval to survive, like literally. Yeah, it might not feel like that, but that's what's happening. So this isn't something that you woke up one day and said, this is how I'm going to be. This is a slow process that happens over time, or a traumatic experience. Trauma means too much too soon. Yeah. So something could have happened to you which jolted your system into a certain response, and then over time you just ride that wave. So this space that we're creating is really about welcoming all facets of the layers and the complexity of your own personal narrative, your own story. and how we can come into a meeting point of these two pieces and actually start to dissolve them into the center point of being, into the point of direct felt experience. Yeah, like who you are in this moment, in this breath. Yeah. And that kind of investigation that we're doing is firstly sort of like peeling back the layers, like who am I in relation to this? But as we travel down and we descend, that meeting point is really coming into this resting in the void between both of them, basically. Yeah.
I feel to add something here.
Yeah, please do.
So as girls, it's a pretty universal experience, I would say, that in this day and age, we all had that point growing up where suddenly we began to notice being looked at a different way, right? Receiving that objectification of the gaze, the lust that is not reverent, not beholding, but objectifying and dehumanizing, right? And I want to acknowledge the shock in the system. I think that is, and it's become so normalized, and we've become so sort of accustomed to that being the way the world is. But to just really remember, like the pubescent girl, you know, and I can remember it for myself. This kind of, you know, I'm just in my own little world as a little girl, and I'm like playing, and it's fun and it's great, and then starting to develop, and all of a sudden this shock of being treated differently. And to imagine, just imagine what it would have been like. Well, first I'll say there's another side to this too. We receive this sort of new gaze of objectification, of lust, but also I think many women experience a parental figure pulling away from them because they're uncomfortable with the sexuality that's coming online. They're uncomfortable with the breasts and the sexuality and the erotic vibrancy that's coming through the pubescent girl. And so they sort of pull away and start treating them differently because of their own discomfort with sexuality and eroticism. And just imagining what it would be like if we lived in a culture where a young girl began to blossom sexually, if she was met with presence, real beholding presence that isn't pulling away or denying or rejecting this beautiful sexual energy coming through, but also isn't trying to objectify it, dehumanize her with it, possess it, grab for it. And what a different world it would be if we got to have that experience of having our sexuality just presence, right? With respect, with appreciation, with love, with dignity, you know? And the impact that it has on us that we didn't experience that. I'll just tell a little personal story from my life too. I was very erotically curious. I had a lot of Shakti. I didn't have a lot of sexual shame for some reason, even though I grew up in a conservative household. I was very curious about my body and about sex, and it was all very naturally innocent to me. And I was so excited to like make out with a boy finally, and just like couldn't wait to have that experience. And when I was in 7th grade, I had my first makeout. I had my first makeout with a boy. at a hockey game. And there were all kinds of kids there from school, and some of them saw us, and we were kind of sneaking away in the elevator. And, you know, it was sort of an event. People knew that we were having this makeout. And for me, it was the most exquisite experience. And I went home and I laid in bed and I was just in this blissful, like erotic swirls, like, oh my God, like never experienced anything like this, the tongues and the mouth. And it was just so exquisite. And I had no shame and I was just full of joy and innocence about it. And I went to school the next day and there was a rumor going around that we had had sex and that I was a slut and I was dirty. And I remember the looks and I remember the whispers and I remember the shock in my system because it had not even occurred to me that there was anything bad about what happened. It had never occurred to me that it would be perceived in a negative way because it was such a positive experience. And I remember the shock. I remember the shock when I first realized, oh, this has the power to outcast me. This beautiful, delicious energy has the power to outcast me and make me bad.
Maya, how are you feeling if we take a 5-minute break and then we can kind of segue into the next section?
Yes, yeah? Great.
Great. So let's take 5 minutes to pee, to get water, to get what you need. And it's 11:30. It's past the time for me. So let's come back. Actually, yeah. So past. Let's come back at 35 past. Can feel like sometimes talking into an echo chamber or teaching on Zoom. So as we wait for Maya to come back, let's just ground again for a moment, getting comfortable. Just taking a breath and closing your eyes. Just bring a release exhalation. Just some sound. And just feel the direct experience of being seated on your chair or lying on your bed. As your eyes are closed, I just want you to come into full contact with the pressure of the chair against your body.
You also have, like, I don't know, this is gonna sound weird, but you have like a really pretty, like, complex.
Almost as if nothing else exists but the feeling of you being seated. And just see if you can bring your breath, deep grounding breath, into your pelvis, into your lower back, into your lower belly, letting the belly relax, letting the pelvic floor relax. All while feeling yourself being seated. And just take 3 deep, long release exhalations. Slowly opening your eyes. And as your eyes open, still see if you can feel yourself being seated in your chair. Just take a look around the room. And just a bit of a stretch. Okay. So, this is what's happening right now in my world. My cat is drinking my water. I'm gonna have to get some new water soon. So Maya and I are like cat ladies. So our cats will be.
This is my world right here.
And when Maya and I get on the phone to like chat about work or whatever, we spend like 10 minutes sometimes just showing each other our cats and talking about our cats. Okay, so what we're going to do is what we were just speaking about before was this slow entry point into this shaming of our sexuality. Just give me one moment. So we were discussing the ways in which we've received this sexualization and almost this pulling away because of our sexuality arising, and how that's tied into all the nuance of the way that we relate to ourselves. So this next section will be diving into kind of one aspect. There's many, there's many aspects, but we're going to go into one, which relates to internalized misogyny. Okay, so how we as women internalize misogyny. Okay, and soon I'll give a bit more of a breakdown of what misogyny is, just so we're really clear on what we're talking about. But before we go into that, Maya and I just want to offer you a little bit of embodiment, a bit of removing ourselves from talking and the cognitive and dropping into the body a bit more. So Maya will run you through a practice, breathing, and then I will run you through a practice which includes touch. That'll last for about 10 to 15 minutes. So I want to invite you to get comfortable if you're not. And just orient yourself to receive and drop into your body.
So we are going to just do a little practice around the union of passion and innocence, and the kind of space that opens and the revelation that opens when we unify passion and innocence. So I invite you to begin by closing your eyes. And on the count of 3, I'll have you open your eyes. But when you open your eyes, I want you to imagine that you are seeing whatever you're looking at for the very first time. Activate an inner attitude of curiosity and wonder, like you are absolutely, utterly fascinated, like you have never seen before. 1, 2, 3. And let your eyes just very, very slowly move around the room you're in. Really imagine that you have never seen what you're looking at before. It's the first time you've ever seen it. Be so fascinated with every shadow and color and texture and shape. And then gently let your gaze find just one object to rest your gaze on. Beholding it with curiosity and fascination. Like you've never seen it before. And just keep this object in your gaze. Just behold this object. And as you do, I'm going to invite you to begin savoring your breath. You can breathe as deep or as shallow as you want. But instead of watching the breath with your awareness, see if you can get deeply inside of the breath. Pour your passionate self all the way into the breath like nothing else exists. All the way in and all the way out, like your breath is a lover that you can't get enough of, that you are just so passionately hungry for. And if it feels right to close your eyes, you can close your eyes, but just really see what happens if you let everything fall away but your breath and you savor every tiny morsel. All of your passion, all of your hunger. Pouring yourself into your breath like nothing else exists. Like you are utterly fascinated with every tiny curve and texture of the breath.
So keeping your eyes closed. Continuing to savor the breath. Allowing it to be a really natural inhalation and exhalation. I just want to invite you to, for the next moment, start to bring more awareness to that transition between the inhale and exhale. So that point where there is no inhale or exhale, but there is a wave, a transition. And as you breathe in and out, I just want you to put a focal point there between that empty space of transition. It's almost like dying to that emptiness in between the breath. That moment of nothing. See if you can surrender into that void between the two. Not in a way that you're holding your breath, you're still breathing naturally, but you're just bringing more attention to the transition. It's almost like you're suspended in time in between the in and the outhale. Feeling yourself deeply rooted in your chair, on your bed, wherever you are. And very slowly, keeping your eyes closed and continue breathing, take the tips of your fingers and place them on top of your head. Both of your hands on top of your head. And for the next few minutes, we're going to slowly glide your hands, your fingertips, touching very lightly as if it was like a feather touching your head. You can very gently open your eyes to see what I'm doing if you need some visual guidance. But we're going to slowly glide the fingertips all the way down our body, savoring every sensation that you feel from this touch. And we're going complete slow motion, feeling around your eyes, your nose, your lips, touching your lips with your fingertips as if it was the first time you were meeting your lips. And slowly coming down to the neck. Breathing deeply. I just want to invite you for the next 2 minutes to slowly touch yourself, savoring every single movement, every sensation experienced. You can go down your chest and your breasts, even around your nipples, taking all the time you need to really touch yourself in a way that you would love to be touched but meeting yourself as the lover. And if your mind wanders, just bring it back to that direct experience of touch with your body. Just taking the next couple of minutes to go all the way down your body and then slowly back up to the top of your head. Breathing deeply. Slowly making your way to the top of your head, finding your own completion. Keeping your eyes closed and finding a pause. Just really taking a moment to integrate. Keep your eyes closed. Just take some breaths. You can allow your system to digest this by doing the candle breathing again. Breathing in and then slowly breathing out like a candle just to sort of arrive back. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Taking just a very little brief look around the space to arrive. To bring this inner experience, this inner cultivation out into the external world. Okay. So I feel a little bit high. So this next piece is moving into, I just want to speak to what we just did actually. So when myself and Maya are talking about this union, yeah, Bridget, this union also entails a deep soothing and regulation of our nervous system. Yeah. So these little practices that we've just done are also in the background self-regulation tools and techniques for your nervous system. They're multifaceted. They are deeply tantric in nature. They are almost like bypassing the duality and going into the direct experience. And that, you know, for Maya and I, when we speak about the feminine, we're really, and I'll speak for myself and I'll let you add, Maya, but I know that we agree upon this because of our conversations. But when we speak about the feminine and the deep feminine, which sits at the center of that split, that union, we're speaking to the direct felt experience. Yeah. The direct meaning present moment felt experience of reality. Or as Maya would call it, the deep feminine current of reality, which is a lot more poetic. And it's this dying, for me, like the way I experience it is like, I love this practice of savoring the breath because for me, it's like it's dying to everything into the meeting point of the moment and really resting fully and wholly in that space. Yeah. So when we're talking about the union of this Madonna whore and all the levels of the splits that we will be going into over also the next 6 weeks, we're coming constantly back to this meeting point of the direct present moment. And not only is that a meeting point to meet the feminine, but it's also a complete rewiring of your nervous system, of your conditioning, of your programming, where you bypass narrative and enter into who you really truly are, which is right now. Maya, do you want to add anything about what we're speaking to at the moment?
Yeah, so what I feel to add is that, you know, in the last few thousand years, in the era of patriarchy and the collective loss of connection to the deep feminine, to the real gnosis of the goddess, most spirituality has been about transcending the body, transcending the direct experience, right? Obviously, in the Abrahamic religions, the Father God, which there's a whole lot there. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that right now. But also in the transcendent spiritual practices where we go beyond the body into awareness, right? Or we observe our direct experience with awareness. And the feminine revelation, the feminine as the gateway to truth, to presence, to being, to the divine, is actually through the senses, through the felt sense of our direct experience. So it's like meditation as lovemaking, you know, and how we can meet ourselves and meet the moment through our nostrils and our mouths and our ears and our eyes and all of these portals that we've been given, these sensory, sensual openings to meet reality. And that process of savoring and meeting our direct experience is like a lovemaking. You know, it's a meeting of the feminine rather than a looking at or observing, watching with awareness, but entering into. And I think there's you know, to me, what I'm passionate about is that this is a lost kind of spiritual technology, right? Because it's not a transcending the sensual realm, but it's not a hedonistic indulgence, right? Or performative eroticism. It's a deep yoga of making love to our direct experience, to ourselves, to our moment, and the kind of gnosis and intimacy with life that opens there is so core to like the original goddess spiritual path.
Yeah, and just deepening that a little bit more around that really acting as the central premise to the teachings that both Maya and I do separately, and just bringing in such a beautiful and organic synergy together is also looking at the notion of the feminine that is not about this performative quality. And what's happening at the moment is there's a lot of strong definitions being put out and exalted and expressed as the feminine. And there's a term called like the pimped out feminine, which is really like sparkly and pretty and bindies and dresses and long hair and flowing and high frequencies and magnetic and juicy and sensual and erotic. And there's all these kind of terms and labels now coming at us, especially in the new age spirituality scene. It's kind of like that video that we watched at the beginning of the session around Be a Lady. I feel like there's a whole nother video we could do around what being feminine is in the spiritual world. And I'm not saying that none of those things are true or real. Everything is, the feminine really is everything. But I just want to kind of side note that if we're using these terms or different archetypes as a way to interface over ourselves to get further away from who we really are, there's a red flag there. And I've gone through all of this myself. I've lived this. So I'm speaking from experience. And I'm also speaking from what I'm seeing more and more prevalent today in these spaces. And Maya and I aren't coming on a high horse and saying, well, this is wrong and this is the way. Absolutely not. But we are speaking to this element of actually dissolving label and identity around the feminine, dissolving the story that we're being fed by society, by culture, by religion, by new age spirituality, by media, and empowering you to deeply come into contact with your own gnosis, with your own knowing, that's rooted within the body, that's accessed within your body, and that's accessed through sensation and through deep presence, and coming into contact with her through this vessel. Yeah. And then whatever other things that you resonate with and want to draw from, but from that deep sovereign space of knowing yourself deeply. That gateway, that doorway that Maya's poem was speaking to at the beginning. So this is kind of where we're coming from when we speak about this work, this space, this frequency. It's not even a frequency, it's like a deep sense of being. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel to add to that also that, you know, the sexual repression of women went on for so long. And there's been an emergence of sex positivity to kind of break out of that good girl programming, you know, and embrace our sex and embrace, you know, even being a slut, taking the word slut back, right? But oftentimes what I see in that movement is that it is just kind of switching sides. It's taking back our sex, but in a performative way, in a way that makes us seem sexy, seem appealing to men, seem desirable, right? Rather than really intimately meeting the truth of our sex as a gateway for ourselves to come home.
Mm. So I was just answering to Laura's message, which was a really like a valid question in here around like why when we speak about masculine and feminine that they're not gendered, but why is it always that women are speaking about feminine anyway and men about masculine? And it's true, and we're doing that right now. And I was just saying, Maya and I teach men. I'm on a coach on a man's program where I speak specifically to this and the cultivation of that within men. And I know Maya also works with men as well. And I think predominantly you've been working with men, kind of going deep into this as well. And for me personally, which is really like going now into the next subject, I find it important. I'm really passionate about looking at the shadow side, especially within women, and how we relate to internalized misogyny and how we perpetuate this, sorry, it's midnight for me now. I'm like, my words are fumbling. How we perpetuate oppression through internalized misogyny as a woman. So I find it important to bring these spaces within women together and unpack this dialogue. And hopefully, you know, we can have these spaces with all genders, men, women, non-binary, trans, and unpack these conversations together as well. So that leads me into the next kind of space, which we've been trying to get to for a while, is, so we were speaking to before about how there's so many different layers of internalized misogyny. And Maya and I were sitting with where we wanted to go today. And we'll probably go for another 40 minutes just to let you know. So we'll wrap up maybe in 40, 45 minutes, something like this, hopefully. So I want to bring up the conversation with women, because if we're looking at the Madonna Hall, it's very easy for us to talk about man and the oppression from men, or patriarchy, and really relate patriarchy to the gender of man as well. And what I'm really interested in discussing and looking at is how we as women perpetuate that with each other. And this brings to the topic of slut shaming between women. So Maya and I are going to dive a little bit deeper into this. Just a bit of an introduction, a bit of a, we don't want to overload you too much because I know that it's already been a lot. We just want to kind of unpack another layer of this Madonna horse split, which is slut shaming between women, from women, onto women. Because whether you're aware of it or not, you're either slut shaming all the time, or you're being slut shamed, or it's interchangeably happening within your mind. And so we're going to do I'll introduce a bit about what slut shaming actually is, and then we'll go into some contemplation questions. But Maya also introduced me to a kind of new term that I didn't know before. I already forgot it, honey. So share it, and then I know that it relates to this as well.
Yeah, so one of my Tantra teachers from many, 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 many years ago, his name is Rahasya Advait. It's the Advait Tantra School of South Africa. He created a third term. There's the Madonna, the whore, and then what he called the women's union. And the women's union is the way that women attempt to get power in patriarchy by policing other women and by allying with the misogynistic paradigm that exalts men, exalts masculine values, exalts masculine principles, and degrades feminine ones and women. So that's sort of like a third archetype that we can get pulled into. And it's really all about power. All of these archetypes are about trying to find power in patriarchy. And when I talk about patriarchy, I'm also less interested in, I think it can be very distracting very easy and very distracting to get caught up in, men being at fault, or like holding current alive men that are alive right now today responsible for doing something about this. And that's just really missing the point. To me, patriarchy is a collective loss of contact with the feminine. Oh, we've got someone.
Maya, you muted yourself, my love.
To me, patriarchy is a collective loss of contact with the feminine, an exalting of masculine values, masculine ways of personality, and a denigration or a loss of contact with feminine gnosis, with feminine wisdom. And that has an inherent misogynistic attitude inside of it. And so it's very common for women to attempt to get power in this thing called patriarchy by submitting, trying to be a good girl, get men to like you, do what men want, do what men say, rebelling, becoming a really fierce, ferocious badass and smashing patriarchy, or playing out the women's union and starting to police other women. How to be a good woman.
Nice. See, I nearly tried to be a good woman by muting myself and coughing. I'm not going to.
And someone also here just said prude shaming exists and is the opposite pole. And absolutely, yes.
We'll speak to that as well. So I just want to invite you to check in with your body. I noticed that I was just sucking my belly in then unconsciously. So just see if you can let yourself relax a bit. So I'm going to ask you to write down two questions, two answers. And then we'll circle back to these I'm going to give you 2 questions and you're going to write down the answers, and then soon we will come back to your answer. So, first question is, write down 3 expressions of sexuality you find as too much. And I really want this to be completely unfiltered, like you were talking to your best friend. Okay? That type of unfiltered. Okay, so 3 expressions of sexuality that you find too much. It's okay if you sound like super judgmental. Just let it out on a piece of paper. So write this on your own notes. I won't get you to put this in the chat box right now. And just try to get like words, not necessarily sentences, but some really clear definitions. Just give you another minute for that. Don't put them in the chat box, keep them for yourself. Okay, so the next question is, write down 3 expressions of sexuality or sensuality that you admire, that you find attractive or powerful in another woman, or wish that you were more of, wish that you were more in contact with. So 3 qualities that you really admire in another woman around her sensuality, her sexuality, that you find powerful and you'd love to get in more contact with within yourself. Okay. So just finding a completion. Taking a deep breath. So we'll come back to that in a moment. But I just want to introduce now a little bit about slut shaming, just to give a bit more context into what we're speaking to here. So slut shaming can be, I'm just reading off my notes here. So, all right, let's, that's how I feel like right now. Okay, so back to where I am. Okay, so slut shaming can be defined as the experience of being labeled a sexually out of control woman, a slut, a whore, and then being punished socially for possessing this identity. Being criticized or punished for dressing in, so slut shaming relates to the following: being criticized or punished for dressing in perceived sexually provocative way, talking openly about sex, pleasure, desire, expressing sensuality, affection, and touch, requesting access to birth control, having premarital, casual, or promiscuous sex, engaging in sex work, and unfortunately, being victim blamed for being raped or assaulted because she was asking for it. Okay, so these are some of the qualities that relate to slut shaming. For being, you know, we're told, especially in heterosexual femininity, that we have to be hot and sexy. But there is this invisible, ever-shifting line from being appealingly sexy to being overtly sexy and moving into slutty. Like you can do one little thing that shifts you from the mental construct of society of what's acceptable sexy to being a whore bag and being slutty. Yeah. And as I'm speaking to this, I want you to start to notice what your relationship is to this. How do I slut shame others, other women, or myself? How is it externalized or internalized, or both? I do both. Still, it's totally unconscious sometimes, but it happens. So how do I relate to this?
I want to add something here too, which is that I think ageism plays a huge part of this. Huge, huge, huge. Collectively, we perceive women that when they hit a certain age, they should not be sexual anymore. And if they are, there's something like perverse or wrong about it. So there's that kind of slut shaming as well, where the young looking, pretty, sexy women are allowed to be sexual. And anyone that doesn't fit into that stereotype is not.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, we're told to be sexy, sexual, sexually available, sensual, open, but not too much. Just like this video we played at the beginning. So slut shaming, it's rooted in sexism. If a woman is assertive in her expression, she is vilified. But very often, if a man acts the same, he is praised. Yeah.
Could I tell a little mini story about that? Anyone back in the early 2000s, Tyra Banks had a talk show. And I was obsessed with this show because she was so committed to the split. And the split showed up in almost every episode. And there was zero awareness. It was so unconscious. And I remember once she had a show where she had prostitutes or call girls come on the show. And the entire thing was her sitting down with absolute concern and sadness. And how can you do this to yourself, sweetie? How can you disrespect yourself in this way? I want to help you, really trying to dig into what's wrong with you that made you be a prostitute. And these women were literally looking at her and saying, I like this. I want to be doing this. And she just would, no. Tell me the truth. Tell me why you're really right. And literally the next week, she had a male escort, like a male gigolo, come on the show. And she brought him out with this like, woo! It was this like, oh my goodness. And like, look at him. And it was kind of funny and sexy. And it was just incredible. There was zero awareness of the double standard. And I think it's just a perfect representation of something that we see all the time.
Yeah, thank you. Usually another kind of contemplation question I have is what you define as too much in a female expression, the same in a man's sexual expression. So, usually the guy who's banging lots of chicks is like the man. He's the stud, he's the stallion. But if a woman is banging lots of men, what is she? Yeah. For me right now, I'd be jealous. But years ago, I'd call her a slut. Yeah. Now I'm like, fuck yeah, good on you, right? Because I've resolved that internalized misogyny within myself, right? And that's a really clear example of how you can unpack and unwind, like dismantle that. And I'm going to speak to that in a moment around what's still sitting in our system that we project outside. So this is just we're just trying to give you examples of sexism, basically. So slut shaming is rooted in shame, amplifying the idea that who I am, me existing, is wrong. Slut shaming can be found voiced today by women towards women, men towards women, culture, religion, society, media. And where I want to kind of hone in down more is how are you carrying this shaming? And that slut shaming can also come into the total repression and denial of the expression of your sexuality. Yeah. And that's where that prude shaming comes into as well. So maybe you've not received slut shaming, but you've received prude shaming. Or in Australia, we would call it frigid. I don't know if that's a term that's used elsewhere. But frigid or a prude, right? So it's just that split again. Yeah, this is another example of the split. But for now, I just want you to feel into how are you relating to this? I know I'm sounding like a broken record. Can you recognize yourself slut shaming others? Can you recognize yourself being slut shamed? Do you self shame? Do you self slut shame? Yeah. So these are just kind of questions that I'm dropping in the space. And the next question to ask is, where does this come from? Where are these thoughts coming from? Is this really mine? Or is it something that I've internalized? Is it an inner dialogue, an inner orientation that I've internalized? So this is why I find it really important to speak to this as women. If we want to go here, it's really important to unpack this internalized misogyny within ourselves first, because otherwise we're just going to be like a mouse running around on the wheel, right? So unpacking and excavating this piece is super important. And the next and final piece that I want to talk to around a really brilliant way to investigate this within yourself is by checking in where you're still carrying unprocessed material. So before I go a little bit more into that, yay, there's another cat. It looks like a little kitten. Hello. Can you please bring it close to the screen so we can all see it? Thank you. Oh my God, hello. Yay.
Where is the kitty? Oh.
Linda. Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
emergency cat break. We must see the cat now.
sorry to interrupt, but he just fell off the table and really scared me.
okay, so I want you to get what we wrote before. And I'd like you to look at the things that you listed. What was too sexual and what you admired. And I'd like you to put in front of these sentences or words, let's just take a deep breath. So in front of these sentences or words, these whatever came up for you, to put I am in front of them. So in front of each sentence, put I am. And just start to notice how your body responds. You might be like, but I'm not. Like, I'm just not. It's not about that. Just notice how it feels to put I am in front of that. So we're just putting I am in front of the too much one right now. And I'd like to call upon like maybe 2 to 3 women who feel comfortable to share their I am. And I don't want you to go into any story or giving context. It's just reading, I am XYZ, I am da 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 da. So however many things you wrote down, just in relation to the too much, just to kind of bring that a little bit more into the space. So who would like to take the courage to share? You can pop your hand up. Annika. Yes. Oh, you disappeared, Annika. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Still here. I am wanting sex all the time. I am hunting for sex partners. I only got 2.
Can you just take a breath and just say those 2 lines? Yeah.
I am wanting sex all the time. I am hunting for sex partners.
Thank you. Okay. Maria.
As soon as I raised my virtual hand, my heart was just like beating so fast. Was so interesting because I thought I was like so calm, and I was like, oh, I'm so nervous to share that out loud. But anyway, let's do it. Woo. I make very loud sounds of pleasure. I move way too sensually. I use sexual expression to get attention.
Just want to give you a moment to let that kind of here. And everyone else
Mhm.
being here can take some breaths as well. We can just take some breaths together.
It is an ongoing unpacking, right? Thank you.
Okay, let's have, can't unpin. Let's have one more. Okay, Angie, yeah.
Hey, can you hear me? I am non-consensual domination. I am sitting on a married man's lap. I am exploitative sex trade.
Thank you. So thank you, ladies, for your courage to do that, really, to be seen. Now I would like you to put I am in front of the sentence that you admired in the woman that you wish that you were more of. Okay, so we'll have two women just sharing this, the qualities that they admired in others, and putting I am in front. So Stephanie, would you like to share, or was that from before?
No, this is for now.
Great, please.
Okay.
Yes.
So I am embodied. I am fearless. And I am ripe.
How does it feel to say that?
It feels lovely.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, someone else?
Can I take this opportunity?
Yes.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, like Maria, my heart is in my throat right now, and I thought I was calm too, but so I am singing in public sensually and expressively. I am unapologetically outspoken on issues. I am outrageously creative and colorful. Thank you.
Yummy. Thank you. So, thank you, ladies. Let's all take a deep breath. So what we have just had here is a really clear example of a little thing or a big thing called projection. Yeah. Who's heard of projection before? Yeah. So I'll just give a clear definition for those who maybe aren't so familiar. So projection, psychological projection, is basically casting out unintegrated qualities onto someone else. Yeah. So qualities that you have either repressed or are undeveloped, and projecting them onto someone else. And the clearest way to see projection is through your judgments, your aversions, and your admirations. Yeah, it goes both ways. So that's why I gave you a split between what do you find too much and what do you admire. And these are just great ways to investigate where you're still holding some charge, especially in relation to slut shaming or prude shaming. And it's not about you then owning these parts of yourself and expressing them. Yeah. Owning your projection isn't about the quality and the expression. It's about you coming into contact with why you're judging and where you're judging from, and making peace with that. Yeah. Now, someone said non-consensual sex trade. I mean, that's a whole nother domain. Yeah. Like if we're judging sex trafficking, that's a whole nother area that we can't even go into right now. Yeah. But if you're judging a woman like me who decided out of sovereignty to join the sex industry and become a stripper, and there's like some stuff around that, there's some charge around that, for example, it's a great way to investigate. Actually, is there a part of me that would like to do that? Maybe, you know, like getting a little bit curious about your projections and your judgments. And with the aspects that you're admiring, these are unintegrated qualities within yourself. So when you see a woman that you're adoring and admiring, that's also a projection. That's also your inner gold, where you can actually savor and start to come into deep contact with that part of yourself. Yeah. So we're going to go really deep into this type of stuff over the next 6 weeks, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction into this as a way, as a means to start investigating that slut shaming, the internalized misogyny. So each time you notice yourself judging a woman for her sexuality, her expression, her imperfection, turn it around and use that as a portal, as a gateway to getting curious about yourself and unpacking and dismantling your own internalized misogyny. Yeah. So let's take a deep breath, and then I'm going to hand the last part of this session over to Maya. Let's take So Maya's going to take you through something. My brain's dead now.
I'm feeling to share another poem. Okay. This one is called Feminine Embodiment is Anarchy. Let me tell you the secret of woman. I know how to open my body and heart to radically drink in the elixirs of this moment. I know how to deeply receive. This means I require very little from outside. I am not impressed by the hungry ghost, by the ladders of success and consumption. Give me one taste of the real and I will want for nothing else. I know how to suck the marrow of the moment, how to allow the penetration of existence to touch my sacred core. And this is the deepest longing of woman, to take in the truth deep inside. The secret, you see, is that there is nowhere that this one is not. I can ride one single breath into profound fulfillment, for I am the sacred erotic heart, the union of passion and innocence. I know how to receive. I can take any sensation into satiation. I can savor and taste every ripple and wave as the caress of my beloved. I can commune with the holy light inside. Anything, anytime, anywhere. I can see and smell and hear and taste. I can sense and feel. I can take the matter of creation into the portals of perception, these holy holes of knowing. I can savor them all the way down. It doesn't really matter what is happening. I know how to sink my teeth and suck the juice from life. And because of this, I am free. You can have your mindfulness. I'll be over here making love to the moment with my body and my heart, with all that I am, foolishly, senselessly, letting existence ravish me. The feminine is anarchy. What can they sell you when you know how to savor one single drop into ecstasy? What can they convince you is missing when you know how to experience fullness? This body and heart were made to make love. This body is filled with altars dripping with the primordial nectar of the altar. And all that is required is this radical yoga of wild, passionate, senseless devotion to open wide and drink in, to feel and be filled up. This is all I ever wanted. I am woman. It is my secret and most sacred holy longing to know how to receive. That was just a little snippet, but I'm going to put the full poem in the comments if you want to read the full. I just put it in the comments. I'd love to know if anyone wants to share what do you feel in your body listening to that? What gets touched? What gets activated?
Welcome to come and also share. Yeah. Talking on the screen as well. Your impact. Yeah, Julie.
It's just perfect and beautiful, and I think it feels like I feel lit up in every part of my body, and when when she's reading and sharing in the words, that's how it just feels. It's like, oh, I know that place of being so embodied, or I've had glimpses of it and I want more, I guess I should say it that way. Just, yeah, it's like a whole body light up and feels like it covers the whole spectrum of the whole experience of having that, I don't know, that core connection. I don't know. Those are my words. Thank you.
Thanks for mentioning, you know, just about having had glimpses of these moments and wanting to have more. And I feel like that's such a big part of the work that I do. I've, you know, channeled and created a lot of practices, a lot of embodiment practices, a lot of embodied meditation practices, really trying to just kind of get find a technology where I could enter into and sustain these kinds of experiences that I found myself accidentally stumbling into in lovemaking or in these really rapturous moments in life. And that's been such a big part of my work, is to kind of map out, you know, how to get back into those spaces through practices. Yeah. Big part of what excites me. And demystifying the whole thing, so it's not just a random accident that we fall into, but something we can cultivate, you know.
If anyone else feels to share the impact of this poem, or we're going to close soon, but just if you feel to share anything briefly around what's alive for you in this moment, and just pop your hand up. Yeah, B.
I just want to thank Maya for her magical spell casting with words. It was both transformative and transporting through your intense creativity and your ability to take something that is felt and language it through. You took all of us to that place. And what a gift to have been able to transport a container of women to a place where I think we all long to be as much as possible in our being here. So, Sister Soul Woman, like, I salute you and thank you so deeply for that. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, B. Liz, yes, I see your hand.
I'm not. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm using the mobile phone. I'm an old lady, and you don't want to hear what I have to say, but I'm really grateful to all of you. So maybe that's the bit you want to hear. To everyone that's shared, because I learn from you all. And I need to be more honest and open. But I feel really sad. It's to do with ageism. It was to do with early childhood conditioning, childhood sexual abuse, 46 years, where I thought, and I didn't, it backfired. And now I'm sad and I listen to all of you. So my message to everybody is thank you, but don't do what I've done. Learn earlier, learn quicker, be who you are and express yourself and be more open and more honest. So thank you. I'm sad, but I've learned something from you all. Thank you.
I'd love to just all of us take a moment to be here. Liz.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's all just give her some love and appreciation in the comments too. And Liz, I just want to say that I have such a hunger in my life for crones, for women of wisdom and women of age and women of experience to share what they know with me.
Thank you, all of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
also acknowledging and honoring you being here right now, saying yes to this now after the journey.
Well, but it is just, I go on mute, but thank you, all of you. Bless you.
Liz, we're still just here, just allowing this emotion to come through. Really love everyone to just bring some deep presence into this moment, to feel the wave, the ripple of that.
I'm just going to read some of the comments here. Liz, those of us who are also older are in need of hearing from women who are older than us. May you speak and may you be heard. You brought important tears, Liz. I'm so grateful you're here. Deep respect. I'm there with you. Liz, what a gift you have given us, holding you so lovingly for being with us.
I gave a lot of love, a lot of commitment, and I really wish I hadn't ended up vulnerable. And I wish I had something better than my vulnerability to give to you all. But that's what it is. Please don't be like me. Make something of your lives. Just love and commitment's really good. But actually being a woman and being sexual and being yourself is also good. And if you can find a better balance, then I really thumbs up to all of you. And now I need to go. I can't take any more.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks.
Love you.
Just all take a deep breath. I'd like to direct you to a conversation, an interview that I had a few months ago with an amazing teacher of mine and colleague, David Bedrick. And I interviewed him on ageism. And everyone needs to see this interview. So I will get you to go into the shadow side of the feminine community on Facebook, which is my group. Shadow Side of the Feminine Community on Facebook. You can find the interview in there with David Bedrick on ageism. So I feel like this sharing is complete, Maya. Do you feel that we want to close there? You're on mute, my love. Yeah.
I just feel to acknowledge Liz. She jumped off the call now. But there's something that got touched, I can feel in the field, that I just want to give voice to, which is when we do this work, we do it for our ancestors. We do it for our mothers and our grandmothers and our great-great-grandmothers and our great-great-great-grandmothers. There's a ripple in time. And for all the women that, for whatever reason, and the reasons are many, couldn't take the step. And it's big when we decide to take this step, and it's bigger than just us. And it's bigger than just our sexuality and our eroticism and our embodiment. That's part of it, but it's also our relationship to our power, and to speaking our truth, claiming ourselves, claiming the river of creation that wants to come through us. So letting our life claim us.
So thank you everyone for being here with us.
Let's do maybe 3 breaths all together in unison. So just breathing all the way in, all together as one. And then vibrate a little bit on the exhale. So ha. Just activating the vagus nerve. 2 more breaths all the way in. Just melting into that vibration. Last one, all together as one, as a group. We hope to see some of you in the Virgin Harlot. We're going to go deep into all the different dimensions of this split and into the unification, the root of the deep feminine. And do we have a payment plan now, Maanee? We had talked about that. Do we have that set up?
Yeah, so part of the reason why Maya and I offered this was also to give you this offering from our heart today, and also to give you insight into the next 6 weeks that starts next Sunday, the 27th of June. And we will be going into sessions just like this for around 2.5 to 3 hours every Sunday. If you can't make the live, they will be recorded. There is no time limit that you need to finish the recordings. But we will be going into the same time, same place every Sunday until the 1st of August, starting next week. It's at an incredibly low cost. It's only $298 for 6 weeks, so it's pretty accessible. And we will put up a payment plan option. I still haven't done it yet. So we'll get my assistant to put up a payment plan option so you can do 2 payments. Probably we can extend the payment plan a week later as well. So anyway, the information I've just put in the chat box, but you'll also get an email with that info. And if that interests you, you can come and journey with myself and Maya for the next 6 weeks. So yeah, that's all we have to say. Right now it's 1 a.m. for me. I need to sleep. Thank you so much for being with all of us. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you all. So much love to you, and hope to see you next week in our deep dive.
Thank you. Bye.